Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield and Next Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Feeling very, very last four. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It is semi-final day. Euro 2024 gives us its first semi-final, Spain versus France. And also, across the pond, in the Copa America, Argentina will take on Canada in the first semi-final there as well. But we are here to focus on the Euros. So, Karl, Spain versus France. Spain have, I think, undeniably been the best team at this tournament thus far. However, France have been enormously underwhelming, and yet defensively they've been pretty much rock solid. And they will pose a really, really big test to this Spanish team. And if the French suddenly found form, you wouldn't put it past them to go and beat this Spanish team, because from a purely talent point of view, it's very hard to overlook France, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. Like, if any other nation played the same way they have done, they'd be out by now. France are in it because they have very, very good players doing this job. And the job might not be a fun one to watch, but it's allowing them to progress. It's allowing them to win because they have very good players who can take those moments and who can defend at those moments when they need to as well. I think that there are basically 3 ways France win this match. One is the one that everyone keeps waiting for, which is they start playing to the level of their actual individual components. There's not really any reason to suggest that that will happen, but it definitely could. The second way I think France win this game is Spain have one of their games that we've not really seen at this tournament since the Italy match, I would say, which is where they create lots but finish nothing at all. Like, they had loads of them in between tournaments. They had plenty of them at the World Cup after that opening game where they blitzed and used up all their goals, as they say, and then they just couldn't score at all. So they could do that, and obviously France find a way through. Or actually Spain over-possession themselves into doing not a lot and like are a little bit more timid themselves in terms of their setup behind play. They don't overcommit another player forward. They don't find a way to break down what has been the best defence at the tournament, no question. And like, if that does happen, then obviously Spain don't create anything. Spain over-frustrate themselves. Spain can lose their way when that happens. That has happened before. And even in this tournament, even against Germany, I'd argue they did that at a couple of moments. And if they do that and then France do sense their moment, obviously they have the capacity to go the other way and do something. I think a lot of the outcome of this rests on how good Spain are on the ball in the final third and how quickly they keep moving it.
Yeah, I agree. I think a big factor here is going to be Morata, because he is a player that can shoot you all the way out of the game if he's just off form. And if Spain are creating a lot of chances and they're falling to him specifically, which hasn't been the case yet in the tournament, but if he's off, then that is very problematic. Now, Karl, Spain come into this game obviously having been exceptional in the group stage for the most part. They wiped the floor with Croatia. They beat Italy 1-0, but that didn't represent what we saw. As you said at the time, 3-4-0 probably would have been a more fair reflection of the balance of play. And then obviously they rotate everybody and they beat Albania 1-0. Then in the knockout phase, they go behind against Georgia. They have a bit of a stuttery spell. But once that first goal goes in from Rodri, Spain just looked completely unstoppable. And then that German game, where, as you said, it was a little bit like they had a little bit too much of the ball at times. And then at other times they didn't know what to do with the ball, because I think the possession balance in that game was about even, but it was in kind of sporadic chunks for both teams. But I suppose the big question to ask about Spain is how do they replace the two players they're going to be without? They lost Pedri 8 minutes into that German game, which I do think swung that game in Germany's favour quite a bit. Even though Dani Olmo came on and played really well, I do think what Pedri was bringing to the team was so important in terms of knitting things together. Olmo's more of a final third player, but I think Pedri makes the much bigger impact in the middle third of the pitch, especially when it comes to freeing those wingers. But then Dani Carvajal, who had been booked and was going to miss the game regardless, he got sent off in stoppage time. And I thought it was a clever red card to take because it stopped a potentially dangerous German attack that could have led to the equaliser and forced penalties.
Yeah.
But how do they replace these two? Because it seems like it'll just be Olmo comes in for Pedri. I feel like you do lose something in that, even though Olmo will add more in the final third. But Carvajal is having an unbelievable season for club and country, had been great in this tournament thus far. I thought he did an incredible job against Leroy Sané, who got absolutely nothing out of him. And I know Florian Wirtz scored, but he didn't do a whole lot prior to scoring the goal. I think Carvajal's been brilliant. So who's coming in for him, and what do you see with that midfield?
So let's set Pedri Olmo aside just for 1 minute and do the defence. So I would normally say in this instance, kind of how you bring in Nacho, who's been obviously able to play along the back line for the entirety of his career. Started this tournament at centre-back, which is where he's played most of his football this year because Real Madrid needed him to due to injuries, and that's his normal position. However, you can't just do that because actually Spain have another suspension as well in Robin Lenormand. So he's been centre-back all tournament long, and he is out for this game as well.
Yeah.
So I think you have two options now. One is that Nacho obviously replaces Lenormand at centre-back, which means the backup right-back comes in, who is Jesus Navas. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. We'll get there in a second. So the other option is Dani Vivian comes in at centre-back and Nacho still plays right-back. I don't think that I see that happening. I don't think Vivian is going to be quite there yet in De La Fuente's mind to start this game. I think he's more likely to go for the experienced players, which Navas is definitely one of. He's definitely an experienced player, we can say that. The problem is that you are then putting up not a natural fullback and not a young fullback against Kylian Mbappe, like directly against him. And again, I don't think it's like quite as big or bad as that makes it sound like. Like Navas is 38. He used to be really quick. He's not anymore. He's 38. So the pace thing is obviously one issue. The fact that Mbappe doesn't stick way out to the flank is maybe one consideration as well. Also, Mbappe hasn't been at his best, and he's carried an injury, and he's probably carrying a bit of mental difficulty in getting past that injury as well, because he's been hit in the face a couple of times since then. So all of that is like a really difficult thing to unpack. If you were desperate to go with a bit more pace, you could put Grimaldo right back and let him go on his left foot, tackling Mbappe, who cuts in on his right foot. But to the best of my knowledge, Alex Grimaldo has never played on the right. Again, I don't really see that as being a feasible option. So I think it will just be Jesus Navas, to be honest, which is an intriguing matchup for a semi-final, maybe one which decides the semi-final if Mbappe just decides I'm having a game today. But I kind of feel like Navas will be all right, especially if France do go with more or less the diamond as well again, and he's kind of narrow anyway, and it's going to be counter-attacking. Like Navas will be expected to be positioned fairly high upfield. That right side is going to be a lot of responsibility on Nacho and Laporte to cover it between them in that channel. It's not really going to be a direct right back for the left winger, I don't think. But you tell me what you feel.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd forgotten Lenormand was out as well, which is a huge blow because he's been playing really well. And obviously, I think he just earned his big move to Atletico Madrid. So he's a player full of confidence. It does beg the question as to why he didn't bring more cover in defence. Like Jesus Navas, with the greatest of respect, is about 4 years past being a player who should be playing at this level. And even at centre-back, I know you've got Nacho, so that's one of your backup centre-backs, but for your other backup centre-back to only have 2 caps, I think it's a silly thing. I don't know, I know Spain don't have great depth at centre-back, but surely there was somebody else you could have brought that would have done and been able to step in, you could have trusted to step in. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Rodri and on Fabian Ruiz to cover ground, to fill gaps. And they've got, a midfield battle of their own that they need to focus on. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it will be Navas right back, Nacho centre back. And Nacho's going to probably have to... Nacho might be tasked with basically, if Mbappe drifts left, go with them and double up, and we'll drop one of the midfielders in at centre back, and we'll almost move to a back 3. And you and Navas just go and focus on stopping Mbappe coming back in field. I think you're right. I think France will go with the diamond, and I also think I always think with Mbappe, he looks more comfortable when he drifts to the right and runs into that channel between left back and left centre back and can just shift it and shoot than he does on the left, where he kind of does the cutback and tries for that Henry finish into the far corner. So I think the more you shift him left, I do actually think you're playing into the opposition's hands a bit more if they're smart, which we know the Spanish team will be. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be Navas, Nacho, Laporte, and Cucurella as the back 4. Like you, I don't think Grimaldo's ever played as a right back. Cucurella might have at some point. Maybe that's the change. But then you're changing 3 of your back 4 if you shift him out of position. And unfortunately, just oftentimes you look at a midfielder and you think, oh, well, he could do a job at right back. He's intelligent, he's quick, he's got good positional sense. He'll be disciplined enough to go and drop in there and do that job, like a Milner type. He won't be great at it, but he'll do it. But Spain don't have that type of player. Alex Baena's too attack-minded. Moreno's not quick enough. Zubimendi...
He'd be the only one.
He'd be the only one, and is he quick enough? Probably not. But he'd be disciplined and he's good positionally. But I think it's more likely we see Navas start there.
Yeah, I do. Maybe there's a change there as an in-game shift, but I think it'll be Navas to start. Even if that is, if they get a goal ahead, maybe just lock it down by bringing on Vivian later in the game or whatever it is and chip Nacho. But I think to start, he goes with his experienced players. Navas is obviously over 50 caps. He's played for Spain a long time. He knows the job. I don't think there's going to be too many concerns there, in just the same way as there's not really when they play Lucas Vazquez right back at Real Madrid. It's very, very sort of similar lines there. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And now, obviously, look, Navas is the last remaining link to that World Cup winning side in 2010, or World Cup winning squad in 2010. He was also in the 2012 side that won the Euros. Yeah, look, he's experienced. He won't be all overawed by it. And you mentioned Mbappe has gotten a few belts in the face. I'd be inclined to give him an accidental belt in the face early in the game and just see if you can kind of rattle him a little bit. Because he got an early belt against Portugal, and I thought it took him out of the game for quite a while. So, yeah, I think they'll be all right. Spain know what they're doing. The only midfielder that could do it is Ruiz, who has the physicality. He's quick enough. He's good enough positionally, but he's left-footed, so you don't get what you're looking for in attack from him. And Spain probably will have a fair amount of the ball because I don't think France really want the ball under Didier Deschamps. Right, in that midfield then, Karl.
Right.
What are you doing with Pedri being out?
So first of all, I wouldn't be, just because you mentioned it just now, I wouldn't be considering moving Ruiz there.
No, I wouldn't either. He's too good in midfield.
Yeah, he's been absolutely sensational. I think he's been much, much better here than I've seen him the vast majority of the time at club level with PSG. So just want to make that note, because he doesn't obviously always get highlighted because Rodri is immense and Pedri is obviously a really, really big thing as well. So just worth a note on Ruiz. He has been absolutely sensational, I think. So you can't replace Pedri, right? Pedri is Pedri, and he's exceptional at what he does. Spaces that he finds, taking the ball in the half-term, his first look is always forwards. And even, to be honest, getting shots away inside the penalty box, he's really, really good at that. Like, very, very quick to get a shot away, whereas a lot of Spain are either the central midfielders shooting from a bit further out, or it's the wingers, the cutbacks, bits in the box, that kind of thing for the forwards. Pedri is like that missing bit where you can just get inside the box and be able to take a shot there. He's really good at that. So they will miss that. However, and this might be completely wild and off, but my feeling is that for this exact game, Dani Olmo might actually benefit Spain more. And the reason is very largely linked to what you said at the top. Like, Pedri is the knitting player. Dani Olmo is the final third player. And what we know about this France side is that, exactly as you just said, they don't care about the ball. Like, in terms of actual average possession across this tournament, they're 11th.
Come play Skyline 75th Coney Hunt game. Use your phone to search for virtual conies, tap to collect coins, and redeem them for exclusive Skyline merchandise at participating Skyline restaurants for a limited time. Details at skylinechili.com/Coney Hunt.
Like, that's wild for a semi-finalist team to just not care about the ball to the extent that they have the ball the same amount as Ukraine or Serbia. Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all that they haven't attacked. They haven't really created too much. They've scored, is it still one goal themselves from, like, in terms of a proper goal? Like, it's
two
just,
own goals.
Yeah.
And
a penalty.
Yeah.
Two own goals. Player themselves score in open play still. Like, and that doesn't matter. If you win, you win. They go through, fine. But the fact that they won't have the ball or won't care about having the ball for long stretches, you know, three things. One, that they're going to be really well organised and in shape. Two, the fact that they barely conceded a goal at this tournament all the way through, despite not having a lot of the ball, means they're very good at doing that. And three, the fact that France will just wait and wait and wait, and even if they're under pressure, they'll still be happy to wait, means you, as the attacking nation, have to have two things. One is speed of play, which Spain are really good at because they're technically amazing, but the other one is movement. And the best player that Spain have in the entire squad at finding gaps in tight areas, in all areas across the final third of the pitch, and at getting a shot away at the end of it all, is Dani Olmo. He's the best one at that. He is the one who plays at club level at the best pressing clubs during his career so far. He is the one who is the only one, I would say, who at the moment has shown he is both goal scorer and creator. And he is the one who is obviously relentless as a defensive attacking player as well.
Yeah.
I just think he's obviously had a good tournament as well so far, like minutes per goal contribution, assist or goal. He's the best one at the tournament. Partly that's down to the fact he hasn't been starting games, but it's obviously also down to the fact he's got 2 goals, 2 assists. Like, I think I'm right in saying if he gets one more goal, he actually goes to the top of the Golden Boot standings based on his 2 assists versus, I think, Gakpo has 1. So his impact is always good, but in this exact instance, it might just be what Spain extra need, even more than what Pedri gives them.
I think that's really fair. I think that is a really fair assessment. Like, as you say, you know what's even wilder about the fact that France have are number 11 in possession? Is that they're number 11 in possession with this team. Like, if, you know, we've seen at previous tournaments where there's an underdog that gets to a semi-final and they get there by being incredibly well organised and really good on set pieces. Like, if the Turks had got to the semi-final and you were to say to me, well, you know, it's unusual for an 11th place possession team to be in the semi-final, you'd be like, yeah, but it's Turkey and they're overcoming much more talented teams. But France are more talented than pretty much everybody in the tournament. They don't go into any game with a talent deficit. And yet their manager is choosing to play this way. It's a bizarre thing that he is doing. It works for them. So, you know, whatever. But at the same time, it's just, It's just so strange and flies in the face of everything we've known about French football, from, that great team in '84 to the team that won the World Cup and the Euros, and even the previous Deschamps team, which weren't overly exciting. But, when they won that World Cup in 2018, they weren't giving everybody the ball and just saying, right, well, come and beat us, and then we've got that fella up front, and we're going to boot it to him and hope that he can do something for us. It's just bizarre that this is what they're choosing to do with the players they have at their disposal.
And it's not like they're counter-attacking to amazing results either.
Or committing big numbers in counter-attacks.
Yeah, they don't create a lot at all. Like, they're the same statistical big chances as Austria at the tournament, same as Turkey, fewer than Portugal, who we think have been crap. Like, Croatia, Georgia are within one or two of them. It's not anything of note whatsoever going forward, and they've only scored 3 goals altogether in 5 games.
And not one French player has scored from open play. And, like, it's not like a thing where, like the first own goal, the Vogel one, that's a cross from Mbappe. It's not even a shot. The second one, the Kolo Muani one, it's a shot, but it's heading for the corner flag. Like, it's miles off target, and it just gets a lucky deflection. They've been absolutely blessed. Now, they might feel like if they get to penalties, they fancy themselves against anybody. And if they do, then, fair enough. But I would remind them of what happened in the World Cup final. I really don't know. When I look at this French team, Karl, I just don't know how this is what you come up with in terms of a game plan, because you've got an incredible goalkeeper. You've got a great group of centre-backs. Now, the best of them, I don't think, has played in the tournament yet. But they're centre-backs that would be more than comfortable at going, and probably more comfortable at going and defending the halfway line and saying, right, we're going to camp here. We're going to play in your half. And if you get the ball off us, we believe you can't get past our centre-backs. We've also got a really good defensive right-back who's rapid and can cover back as well. And we're going to launch our left-back forward because he's probably the best attacking left-back in the world. And then we've got all these really good ball players in midfield. And we've also got this cheat code who, if you do get the ball, he's just going to come and take it off you. And then we've got Griezmann, who's a genius. We've got Mbappe, who is in the running for best player in the world. And we've got, other really fun attackers like Barcola, like Dembele whenever he's arsed, Kolo Muani, Marcus Thuram. Like, there's no reason for them to play this brand of football. And yet here we are. So we're going to go into a game where France cede possession and cede the ball. And like you say, Dani Olmo is the one player in that Spanish squad who, if he gets the ball in even a half yard of space in the French penalty area or on the edge of the French penalty area, can make something happen instantaneously, either getting a shot away or picking that perfect pass, because he has such a good picture of the game in his head. It's such a shame that he's as injury prone as he is, because I would adore having him at Liverpool. I love Dani Olmo, but the injuries are what's kept him away from the top clubs thus far.
Yeah, that's probably fair. And the fact, obviously, some of the transfer routes that say he's chosen after that first one, once you go into Leipzig's system, it's obviously a big price to get you out again. So that is also another off-putting thing. I think he's good enough, and I wouldn't be surprised if this summer, whether it's Barcelona or somebody else, does go for him. I think he's just excellent. But the biggest thing is his movement. Like, you can play him as the number 10, which he'll nominally be if he does replace Berti here, but he's everywhere. Like, he'll double up down the flanks. He will give you an overload on one wing or the other. He will be in the middle on the end of crosses, and he'll be the one who plays them as well. So I don't know that he would necessarily be a 90-minute player in a game like this, but I think starting, Spain dominating, he's probably the one who can unlock France, where nobody really has at the tournament. and maybe get Spain into enough of a commanding lead this time that they can start to sub off a few players and not just give the control of the game away like they did against Germany.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things he does better than maybe anybody is doubling up on the flanks. And I think he benefits both Williams and Yamal massively because he does drift out to both of them and create that overload. And when Dani Olmo has the ball, the fullback has to go and meet Dani Olmo. He cannot stand off and allow him space to cross or pass or dribble infield and get a shot away, which leaves more space for those wingers, which in turn can pull a centre-back out of position, which will create more space in the middle. And if, we've seen Fabian Ruiz make those runs into the box. We've seen both wingers come in off their wing to get at the back post for crosses. We know Morata, despite the finishing issues, has really good movement. And we also know that if a ball rolls back on the edge of the penalty area, there's very few players in world football you want moving on to it to strike it first time than Rodri, which is really weird for a defensive midfielder. But his ability to strike a ball first time, stepping onto it on the edge of the box, and not blast, not hit and hope, but actually just pass it into a corner, is second to none. And Olmo's movement might just move enough of those French players around where those type of opportunities arise. Can we just take a second to focus, though, on Lamine Yamal? This boy is 16 years of age. He turned 17 in 5 days. The day before the final, he turned 17. Karl, we've both been watching football a long, long time. I've never, ever seen anybody, nor did I think I would see anybody, do what this kid is doing at an international tournament at that age.
No, not at tournaments itself. In the lead up to a tournament, sure, at club level and give you a hint that they could at a tournament, definitely. But actually at the tournament itself, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, an easy comparison is Michael Owen World Cup 98. But one, the technical level and the movement were not anywhere near this. That was like pure pace and playing on the shoulder. It was also 2 years older, I suppose. I don't remember anybody even close. I'm trying to think even 17.
I mean, Rooney was doing it in the Premier League at 16.
Yeah, but not a tournament.
Not a tournament. He was He was almost 19 at his first tournament, the 2004 one. Same with Owen, nearly 19 in 98.
Club level, I could give you a bunch who were and who were at that age looking like everything, but I don't really remember any of them went onto a tournament. Like, I can't remember how old Borjan was, if he was maybe 17 when he came through and started doing his madness, and he was great. Ryan Cherky, when like watching him from like 15 in the first team at 16, at 17, unbelievable, but erratic. Like, not at this level that Yamal has been.
Donnarumma just was brilliant at 16 from Milan, but obviously not.
It's a tricky comparison as well, isn't it?
It is. That's the thing, and I think he was 17 before he got capped for the first time. But obviously, goalkeeper is very, very different.
I think in terms of like 16 to 17 years old and what they were doing with the space on the pitch, as much as how they technically manipulated the ball, Cherky's the only one I could think of which is of a similar level. And obviously now we're a couple of years down the line from that, and he's not remotely got close to where Yamal already is, let alone international tournament impact.
No, Ryan Cherky is very much still
a child.
He is still seen as always got great potential. He is living off the reputation he had when he was 15, 16. Like, he's meant to be a forward player, and he's never scored more than 5 goals in a season. What Lamine Yamal is doing is just, it is unprecedented. Like, his first season we've just watched, he played 50 games and scored 7 goals. Now, personally, I would say that's too much football at that age, but that is by far a better season than anything Ryan Cherky's ever put together. And Rayan Cherki has never even been called up to the France team. And yet here's Lamine Yamal, 12 caps in, as a standout player in an international tournament, creating goals, outperforming senior players. Like, you watch the game, sometimes you watch a game and there's a young player on and you think, okay, he's really, really talented, but it's very obvious that he's, 16, 17, even 18, sometimes 19. You watch him play, and if you didn't know he was 16, you'd never know. Just watching him play. He plays with an insane maturity. I think he is ludicrously good. And to be doing this at this age is just silly.
How old was Mbappe 2018 World Cup? Was he 18 as well? I can't remember now. 19?
I think he was 19, wasn't he?
Yeah. The only other one I could think of, which obviously didn't watch, but well written and sort of everything else since then, is obviously Pele was 17 at the 58.
Yeah.
But obviously not one we've seen. So
no, and so Mbappe was 19, he turned 20 the December of that year.
That's not the same thing at all. 19 going to 20 is like a very, very different age group.
Exactly. Pele was 17, he turned 18 in the October of 1958. And that's one of the few World Cups that I just cannot find the games of to really watch, but I would be staggered if he was having the same impact. I know he scored the hat-trick in the semi-final, he scored in the quarter-final, but I would be staggered if he'd had the same impact in the early group stage games that Yamal has had. I think in the latter stages he did explode, but again, he's a year older. And I'm fairly certain he played a couple of seasons he nearly 2 years of games under his belt at that point, domestically. It's unprecedented what Yamal is doing. And football now is just very different to what football was back then in terms of the physicality and the speed and the tempo and the intensity and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, this kid is ridiculous. Right, prediction, Karl. France versus Spain. Who is going to the final?
Spain.
Yeah, I am in agreement. I think Spain will win this game. I think you can only invite teams to attack you for so long before a team really punishes it. And I think if Roberto Martinez had the testicular fortitude take Cristiano off on 60, I think Portugal would have gone on and won that game, but he didn't. I don't think De La Fuente will have any issue taking off Alvaro Morata, who's his captain. I know he's at the same level of player as Cristiano, but he's a better footballer now than Cristiano is, and he's a national team captain. I don't think he'd even hesitate to take him off if he thought it was in the best interest of the team. I think Spain have weapons off the bench. If this French team, which hasn't had any change, that defence has played every game, and I think we could see those fullbacks start to tire against Williams, against Yamal, against Olmo, and against Morata. And then you can introduce Oyarzabal, Ferran Torres, players with pace and purpose and goal-scoring ability. That's where I think I don't see any changes off the bench for France that are making any kind of difference. So I think Spain have an advantage there as well. I'm going Spain too.
I will go France's lack of attacking intent to actually cost them this time. I'll go 2-0, I think.
I think that's fair. I'll go 2-1. I think they might get one late on when they have to heave bodies forward. But it wouldn't surprise me if it actually ended 3-1 if Spain caught them on the counter. Because the best counter-attacking option in the game might be Mbappe, but the best one in this tournament right now is Nico Williams. That kid is lightning in a bottle, and he is torching teams when he catches them on the break. So I think Spain win. Right, we will leave it there. We will be back with our next show to talk about England versus the Netherlands. Two teams that, like France, haven't really played up to the level of ability in their teams. England in particular. The Netherlands are a different case. We'll talk about them on our next show. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.